There are many lessons to be learned from the arrest of Roger Stone. First, let me give a disclaimer. I don't know the man. I've never talked to the man. I don't like him. I don't dislike him. I don't know him. I'm not even that familiar with his background. I know some of his professional stops. I know he's worked in government. I know he's had some minor connections with the Trump administration, but very minor. I know he's kind of been Alex Jones's right-hand man, but I don't know him. That's my disclaimer. And what I have to say here is going to really surprise some people because the arrest of Stone, like him, love him, hate him, don't know him, it signals a very evil turn for what's coming. My name is Dave Hodges. I'm the host of the Common Sense Show, and we are the show that is freeing America one enslaved mind at a time. Wow, this is just an amazing story. And I'm going to phrase it and title it like this: The train of tyranny has left the station. When we start to see people in their 70s who pose no physical threat to the establishment whatsoever taken out of their homes at 5 a.m., and it's a well known figure with no criminal background, and the person is taken out in leg irons and handcuffs with a full SWAT team raid, and the only person in the house with him was his wife, who's legally blind. What does this say about the society that we're now living in? First of all, the hour of the day speaks to the Gestapo because that's when they like to pull out the Jews from their homes between 4 and 5 a.m. That's only the first comparison. The allegations are so bogus, they're not even worth discussing. The Russian collusion delusion has been discredited now for 2 years, and President Trump hasn't got the intestinal fortitude to fire Mueller and end this nonsense once and for all. So the people around him who support him are now taking the fall. So if they can't get Trump, they're going to get the people around Trump. They're going to bankrupt him. See, this is the deal with Roger Stone. He's not a wealthy man. He's had to sell off a lot of his assets later in his life. And you know what? That happens to a lot of people in post retirement. And now he's going to be forced to come up with the money to legally defend himself. He probably won't be able to mount an adequate defense. His lawyer's going to be in his ear and say, Roger, your money's running out. Take the plea deal. And he's going to go to prison for something he probably did not do. And so you don't think they know that when they calculate these actions? And it'll be, oh, gee, Roger Stone, oh, associate of the president, he's in prison. Oh, well, the president's now tainted because it's guilt by association. This is the whole, it's basically the entire strategy of the deep state. And I covered this in a previous video. Do you think it's a coincidence that CNN and FBI showed up at the same time? State-owned media, deep state FBI, arresting someone for bogus charges that don't even exist. And by the way, listen to me clearly. I don't care if the man was talking to the Russians about the campaign. It's legal to do so. But wait a minute. It's not legal for Hillary Clinton to sell uranium to the Russians. And it's not legal for special prosecutor, former head of the FBI, Robert Mueller, to deliver the highly enriched uranium on behalf of the Clinton Foundation and Uranium One to a Russian airport, which I documented on thecommonsenseshow.com. I have the documents. I broke this story over a year and a half ago, and it still doesn't get the traction it deserves. Oh, my colleagues in the independent media patted me on the back. Great job, Dave. Thanks for coming up with this. Yeah, I've received a lot of accolades from colleagues, but across the country, no, this should be front page news on every single newspaper. There's your crime. But see, the train of tyranny has left. When we're doing Gestapo type raids, when we're doing Gestapo type tactics to pull people that basically are in elderly, they're bad health, they're elderly, they're caring for someone who's practically disabled, and we engage in these kinds of shenanigans, and then we put it on CNN for the world to see. This is stuff that the Nazis did. The Nazis are, well, let's put it this way. The deep state is the Fourth Reich. Let's make no mistake about it. The deep state is going down the path of tyranny. This is only where it begins, people. This is not where it ends. I've said this about 5 days ago. Bill Ayers, who started Barack Obama's political career in his Hyde Park, Chicago home when Obama was running for the state Senate in Illinois. He was a member of the Weatherman Underground, convicted felon. His actions led to the death of a police officer. His wife was involved in an armored car robbery. She served time. Both avowed communists, Bill Ayers, Bernadine Dorn, yet Ayers visited the White House several times when Obama was president. And what was the Weatherman Underground? The attempt to bring in communist government to the United States. We called them the Red Diaper Babies because they were the sons and daughters of well-to-be corporate types. Bill Ayers' father was the head of Con Edison. Larry Grathwohl, and I told this story before recently, so please bear with me because not everyone listens to every video. Larry Grathwohl, the late Larry Grathwohl, FBI informant, former friend of mine. Larry and I talked a lot. I interviewed him a few times. And Larry said that when he penetrated the Weatherman Underground on behalf of the legitimate FBI of the day, he asked Bill Ayers, "What will you do if you ever take over in this communist revolution?" And he said, "Well, we'll have to round up 50 million Americans and do away with half of them, meaning murder." It's shocking, isn't it? He said that exactly on my show. That interview is recorded on the Common Sense Show. Ladies and gentlemen, when we take a look at this situation involving the Roger Stone arrest, this signals what's coming. It's not just about Roger Stone. I'm not trying to turn him into a martyr, I'm not trying to turn him into a hero. I'm turning into a symbol of what is actually coming to this country. This is not the last time. Alex Jones, in all likelihood, is probably next. People say, "Well, I don't like him," but what do they say about when no one is safe, right? When someone is arrested on false pretenses, jailed for their political beliefs, their political actions, which aren't illegal, does that mean any of us are safe? No. Remember, they came for the bakers, then they came for the Jews, then they came for me. No one was left to speak. Remember Martin O'Miller's paraphrased poem there? That's where we're at, folks. What's next? Millions, millions of you. At some point in time, when the deep state wants to complete its tyrannical rage against the American people, when they have collapsed the American government, when the borders are no more, then they're going to go after the dissidents. They're not going to go after the leaders. I mean, I'm talking the rank and file. They will come after you. They will come after your families. We can detail how this will be done someday. I've written about this in some detail because it's all written out. FM 39.4 Army Field Manual talks about how FEMA camps are organized, who's going to run them, what the procedures are going to be. I'll cover that in a future broadcast, but I want you to remember this time in our history. The arrest and indictment of Roger Stone is the marking of the train of tyranny has left the station, and it's going to be Nazi Germany on American soil. Do I think it's going to be unopposed? Absolutely not. There are people in the military who will not go along with this. But I'll go back to an event that took place in 2016, which foreshadowed what is happening and what is coming. It was called Jade Helm 16 or Jade Helm 2. In this particular version of Jade Helm, the government, on behalf of Obama, with special forces on behalf of Obama, practiced fighting against ex-military guerrilla chieftain. They actually advertised for crisis actors to play these positions in BizOp. I published the ad. They paid $18 an hour, and they were very clear. This was the American version of the Viet Cong who had been former military. They're expecting the people to rise up. They're expecting many of the veterans and many of the present military to resist what is coming. But they're also expecting that they're going to be numerically superior because they called these people guerrillas, meaning they were using guerrilla tactics, which means they are inferior on the battlefield. Why would they be inferior if we have millions of Americans who will stand up, who are armed, who have military training? It's because they brought in the forces of the UN under the Kigali principles. that Obama and John Kerry signed before they left office, they became one of 29 nations which obligated the U.S. to allow the UN to come into this country on its own say-so in a crisis situation to restore order. You and your possible resistance, we and our military benefactors could be that impetus for incursion by the UN into the United States. And if you don't think it's planned for, go to thecommonsenseshow.com. Find what I have put about the UN incursions. And in particular, look at the photos of the UN armored vehicles stored in Hagerstown, Maryland, photographed, distributed. This is our future. This is what the Roger Stone arrest has signaled for America.